Hello everyone, I hope you are having a great Sunday evening wherever you are and whatever you're doing. I hope that you're staying safe and socially distanced, and thank you very much for joining me on this little tour of literature, should we say. So I thought that since many people are socially distancing and are perhaps feeling a bit lonely, that I would make a video, which is hopefully the start of a video series in which I talk about some of my kind of biggest obsessions and sources of joy in life, which are books and literature and writing. And anyone who has met me in real life knows that I am a big fan of reading, and I love exploring new kinds of literature and new books, and I also love to write. And I publish some of my essays on a blog that I'll link down below if you're interested. I've spent a big chunk of my life living and enjoying libraries, and I really want to bring some of the joy of reading across to my viewers, and hopefully just having a rambling human voice in the background while you go about your daily tasks can help some of you that are feeling very lonely and isolated right now. I know I've certainly struggled with those feelings myself, so I hope that, you know, just listening to someone reading or talking about books can help you out a little bit. And if you have a book that you would like to see me discuss, or a poem that you would like to hear me read, then please definitely leave a comment below. So today I thought that I will make a cup of coffee for myself. It is a very, very dark early evening here in Stockholm, Sweden. So I could definitely use a pick-me-up coffee. Then I will read to you an essay that I have written myself. It talks a little bit about the kinds of things that we dream about when growing up, and where those dreams come from, and how those dreams are going to evolve as we sort of try to move to a more environmentally sustainable and fossil-free future. So before I move on to that, I am going to make myself a cup of coffee. Now recently I've started getting into this whole French press grinding your own coffee beans thing. I used to not drink any coffee at all until I was 17. I went to the United States for university, and first time in my life I went into a Starbucks, because back then, and this was almost 10 years ago but not quite, we didn't have a Starbucks in Finland where I grew up. And so I went to college or university near Philadelphia, and for the first time in my life I went into a Starbucks and I was immediately like, yeah, give me the biggest cup, the venti soy latte cup. And that's how I started my journey of being a real coffee drinker. In the past few months, since I've been avoiding kind of going into the city and going into coffee shops, I've mostly been making coffee at home. And I've been a bit lazy, and I've been mostly drinking kind of fast coffee, instant coffee. Yeah, instant coffee. It's called snabbkaffe here in Sweden, so just translated it as fast coffee, but of course it's instant coffee in English. And recently I decided that it's time to try out something else, so I've been trying out these beans and grinding them with a French press. So I'm gonna show that to you, and then we're just going to dive into the reading. So If you want to get yourself a hot beverage, then feel free to do so right now, and I am going to see you soon. So welcome back. I have my little bowl for the beans, and my hand paste? No, that's not what it's called. My coffee bean grinder that you kind of have to use manually. Manual grinder, that's the right term. And I'm just gonna show you how this works. So we're going to pour some beans in here. So here are the coffee beans. I love the noise that they make. It's kind of very soothing. They smell really good. It's a very rich, chocolatey smell. Kind of reminds me of being busy early in the morning and going out into the city and grabbing a cup of coffee and just rushing to work and being excited to start your day. So it's a good kind of memory. So I'm gonna pour these beans in here. So the way you do this is you disassemble the top, and you kind of have this cylinder here that you fill up with beans. I'm gonna try to do this without spilling, but yeah, some of these beans have ended up on the floor more than I would care. Right, so I did not manage to do this without spilling, but definitely got more than enough in. So once you're done filling this up with coffee beans, you put on the lid, you put on the handle, then you really need some of those muscles, because you have to hold it down with one hand, and then with the other you basically start to grind. And you definitely do get tired a little bit, so if you don't have a whole lot of arm strength, I do recommend that you consider getting an electric one. I don't know why I got the manual one. I guess I wanted to challenge myself a little bit, but it's definitely faster with an electric one. So I'm gonna finish up grinding these beans, and I will see you in just a bit with the French press and the coffee. Okay, so I'm back with my French press, and there are some ground coffee beans in here, and I have boiled some water right here in my kettle, and I'm going to just pour it in. Alright, and finally I'm just going to give it a bit of a stir, and then I'm going to let it Alright, we've poured up the coffee, and I have my spoon here, so I'm just gonna give it a bit of a stir, and I'm going to go get the lid, but before that I'm just going to set this little guy for 4 minutes to let the coffee brew. There we go. All right, 4 minutes is up. This is definitely not the most scientifically accurate French press, French brew, whatever you wish to call it. But anyway, 4 minutes has passed, and now comes the best part. We press this down. And our coffee is ready. It's looking a bit on the light side, so I may have put a bit too little coffee in here, but anyway, I will be seeing you in a bit. All right, we have our coffee. I hope you've grabbed a beverage of your choice and you're ready to settle in and hopefully have a relaxing moment. So I'm just going to pour this up. Okay. I'm going to be reading an essay that I wrote in response or inspired by something that a Finnish climate activist said on Twitter or in a blog post. Can't remember exactly. So he was talking about the kind of aspirations that people have in a modern society and kind of where those aspirations come from and what enables them. And you know, he was talking about kind of traveling and how we aspire to consume and to buy things and to have a weekend getaway in Paris and then another one in Rome and so forth. And he was talking about how all of these dreams that people grow up having are really enabled by a high fossil consumption society. And I kind of got inspired by this word that I think he used, kind of high octane. We live in a high octane society and we tend to dream high octane dreams that are only possible because we are able to consume, because we have airplanes, because we can buy cars, we can travel. And so I started examining the dreams I had a few years ago when I was graduating high school and when I was going to university, and I realized that these images that he was talking about, these images of having weekend getaways and shopping for clothing and, you know, just kind of taking trips to go skiing or shopping. These were kind of the aspirational dreams that I also grew up having. And I wanted to take this concept and write a little essay or a kind of creative nonfiction piece around it where I kind of expand on why we have these dreams and what do they mean. So I will link down the original piece below. It's available on my blog, and if you prefer to read it instead of listening to me, then I'd be very grateful if people were interested in reading it. So let me know what you think about it in the comments, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this video. High Octane Dreams, first published on the 3rd of March 2020. And there is a little preface before the essay starts. I started writing this essay several months before the coronavirus pandemic. If this imagined life seemed unattainable back then, its glossy exterior has certainly been completely shattered by now. And then the essay begins. In an alternative universe, things are, of course, different and glossy. I planned the rest of my life one afternoon in 7th grade while reading an elementary Swedish language textbook. A staple piece of content in foreign language textbooks at the time were snippets where students of the same age as the learners, but living in the native country where the foreign language was spoken, talk about their dreams for the future. It was then and there that I read the dreams of Janika, 13, from Uppsala, who imagined herself at 30, sitting in a luxury bath in her apartment in London, relaxing after a long day at work. After completing high school, Janika moved to London and made a successful career in business. The whole dream was vague and suitably delicious. Right then and there, on the wooden classroom chairs, this sounded like magic. And for months after that, I slipped in and out of random reveries of what it would be like to lead this high-flying existence in a specific, yet unnamed, cosmopolitan city in the world. There would of course be busy mornings, large Chanel sunglasses, and tall single-use coffee cups. One would glide into the office a la Miranda Priestley, the boss bitch devil wearing Prada, her morning entrance accompanied by the staccato of heels on well-polished marble floors in the lobby of an anonymous but important-looking office. At other times, the reveries were about evenings after work, slipping into luxe baths in beautiful Scandinavian bathrooms with views into expansive living rooms. In those living rooms, the windows stretched from floor to ceiling and revealed a jeweled carpet of city lights stretching infinitely into all directions. All of this obviously took place before I ever laid my eyes on the New York, London, Paris real estate listings, and even after I had laid eyes on the said information and computed the gap between what I could ever expect to earn in a lifetime and what one of these glamorous places cost, I still continued dreaming. Of course, the imagined version of my future self did other things besides taking baths and wistfully gazing out of tall, expansive windows. There were nights out in chandeliered bars where the light was just dim enough to be sophisticated, yet intimate, where the decor refused to place itself in any particular era or style, but was anonymous, where the conversation was interesting, yet didn't say much, and mingled among the light glint of piano, where people flirted by dropping references to an art exhibition of Picasso's early works, or this or that indie band they had seen perform in a hip area of the city, that they loved being associated with but would never ever consider living in. Then there were of course the weekends, and here the dream's geographies became vague. These days were occupied with shopping trips to other equally stylish, equally expensive, equally charming cosmopolitan cities, where glamorous, rich, beautiful people drifted from one chic pastel store to another, buying things just because they could, and not because they needed any of them. It was this air of casual nonchalance, of buying things just for the sake of buying, that became so seductive. It seemed like the ultimate form of some perverted freedom. Of course, it was also a trap. At other times, in these dreams, there were trips to the sea and the seaside mansions, whose total worth would by far exceed anything a whole town of people could ever earn in a lifetime. In the yards of these mansions, the occupants sat by the pool, barbecued, and made arrangements to play golf together on the bank holiday weekend. They all had the air of people who had succeeded and would succeed with seemingly little or no effort. The way they did it, they made success look easy. Once the dusk had settled, there would be a garden party in the warm, balmy light of the evening, the air saturated with the excitement and exhaustion from the day's activities, and the guests, in their summer whites drifting from one conversation to another like large moths. Of course, this was all pretty much like the Instagram reel of an affluent person. No one around me lived a life quite as exquisite as I spent hours imagining. Yet for some reason these images and their variants came to occupy my imagination, eventually occupying the very dangerous label of a desirable life. It was desirable on some abstract social one-upmanship level, a life that everyone was primed to strive for since the very early days of preschool. Not necessarily a desirable life in terms of social benefit or even individual liberty. After all, paying for all of the above would likely require golden handcuffs or some sort of familial monetary lifeline. Although these images situate themselves in various places, continents, cities, places of a certain feeling and no concrete geographical label, a common thread weaves through these images, namely that they derive their pleasure and thus their allure from the possibility of unlimited consumption, wealth, and prosperity. They are, in the words of a climate change activist, affordances of a high-carbon society, high-octane dreams. So this was the end of this little essay, and I hope that you've enjoyed spending this evening with me, and I hope to see you soon with another installment, either from the blog or from a book or from something else. Let me know in the comments below what you thought, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening.